Today we are welcoming Sarah onto the Shift Happens podcast. So, welcome in after all of our chaos of trying to make this happen.
Thanks. Thanks, Kayla. Good to be here.
I love to start with before your shift happens moment. And
Right.
I feel like if you could kind of take us back to what life was like before the floods. I know you were in healthcare leadership, you were juggling solo mom life and basically doing
Yeah.
it all. So, like, what did that look like in that season for you? What did that look like in that season for you?
Yeah, it's funny because, right, it sounds like I was doing it all back then, but I was a fraction of actually what the universe was going to hand me in the next, year, 2 years, right? Now it seems like that was a piece of cake. So I've been in the same career field for about 15 years in healthcare, a very niche field, dialysis and transplant, and just really, had built my career. I started as a registered dietitian in the hospitals, actually, and just kind of kept climbing the ladder, right? One promotion after another. And, you just kind of I did the normal path, right? Oh, I'll be a director and I'm going to be a VP, and just kind of grew my career. And I was in a position where, I was actually at a pause where like I had done kind of professionally and personally, maybe like everything I thought I was supposed to do, right? Like I had a good career. I went to grad school. I had a kiddo. I bought a house. I had been married, even though I got divorced, right? Like I kind of done everything I was supposed to do. And life was pretty stable.
Yeah.
I live in beautiful St. Pete. So, there's no being bored down here. I mean, there's tons to do. It's gorgeous outside all the time, kind of just cruising, really.
Yeah.
Just cruising through life and feeling pretty okay with how things were, honestly.
Right. You were doing everything society says is the right way to go. You were climbing that ladder, you were having kids, got married. I mean, it all sounds great on paper. So then these floods happened, literally.
Yeah.
So take us there.
Yeah. So I had gotten divorced during COVID. That was my kind of COVID casualty. And so in the 4 or 5 years since then, I had really poured myself into the house. Looking back on it, it's almost like a bad breakup. You look back on it, you're like, oh, I spent so much time and energy on something that was transient, right? That wouldn't last. But so in the first, and there are 2 floods now, but in that first year, I had actually gotten laid off I was at a startup and I got laid off. And I had 3 months severance. And so I kind of just took the time for the first time in my life to really just kind of enjoy life. And, I did a lot of yoga and I got into breath work and I kind of rediscovered myself. And like, if this were a movie, that would be like all the foreshadowing, right? It would be like me in the Rocky montage, like training and doing yoga and volunteering. Because at the end of that year, at the end of August, it was only a Cat 2, but a Cat 2 came through and the storm surge. I live in a neighborhood that's prone to flooding. And on August 26th, I chose not to evacuate. And for that first flood, we stayed up overnight. And I woke up that morning to one of my neighbors calling me saying, hey, we're flooding. And it's a surreal moment to look out at your house and see like 8 feet of water like surrounding your home. And the water just started gushing in. And, I didn't evacuate. It was a terrible decision. And in retrospect, the refrigerator started smoking. The alarms are blaring. I got a 60-pound dog on the counter. She's like giving me this look like, what?
Why did we stay?
Wow, what are you doing? And so that was really the first flood. And that was in 23. And, it was a miracle. I rebuilt. My brother-in-law, who I didn't even know, showed up at my doorstep and just lived there and rebuilt the whole thing. And community pulled together. And it was like, Kayla, it was like a picture perfect moment of like, this terrible thing happened and like, yay, I recovered and everything's good.
Yep. And then it happens to you again.
And then 6 months after I finished, and so that was my big impetus for like, hey, I want to do something. I've always wanted to be a writer, a stand-up comic. I've always been a health and wellness fitness girly. And so I was like, oh, I'm really gonna do public speaking. I want to share this message. I overcame so much. This is going to be so great. And then, before I could even really launch my new business, 6 months after I finished rebuilding, a second flood came.
Oh my God.
Worse than the first one. Water up to my counter. So to imagine your home, you're listening in or whatever, imagine your home and just take everything from the counters down and just throw it away. Just
Oh
get rid of it. Every board game, like I don't have a pot to piss in, like every hair tie, everything, right? And then, there really is no prepping for that, because when you have that much water in your house, like the refrigerator was in a different room, like obviously everything was just like destroyed. And so that was really the second flood. And the bigger shift that I didn't see coming was, I rebuilt once and it worked. And like, what do I do the second time? Where do I go with this?
I feel like that's such a hard realization to be like, you just mentioned all those little things that we don't even think about. And that's the real loss, because it's not even just the house. It's who you were trying to be in that moment as well. And it kind of got washed away with that. So it wasn't just about the house. It wasn't just about the things. That version got washed away. So, well, it finally clicked to like get you to rebuild a second time after the first.
Yeah. Well, so, the things that served me going into the first flood, right? Like I had really built up like my health and wellness, right? We all go through periods where maybe you skip the gym, you're eating, Doritos for dinner. I had really said, you know what, I'm really dedicated to this. I'm getting older. Like, so all the foundational things with like my health and wellness, I volunteer, I have a lot of social connections, like all of those things served me so well the first time that I did have like a safety net really in place. But the second time, to be honest, it really tests it, right? You can think that you're doing good and you can think you can handle it. And then the universe is like, ha, 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 let's up the ante. And so it really was just, again, sticking back with those basics of like, just trying to build some kind of momentum. And, I have a tendency maybe to self-abandon. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Right. Like, I think I have a tendency, I know when things get hard, like it's hard for me to kind of like hang in the saddle, but that's like exactly the moment, right? Like instead of, I've been sober 3 years and, it didn't come from some big epiphany or addiction. It just didn't work for me anymore. But right. Like that was an old thing, right? Grab a drink, right? Have a glass of wine and forget, spend the evening shopping and scrolling. Hey, let's go on a dating app and swipe for some boys too. Or, just distracting myself. And so the second time it was really, I felt like, if I made this vow to myself and to the world, to positivity and to going after my dreams and starting my own thing, I can either like abandon it and abandon myself, or I can just like double down, right? I can say no, like almost like a little bit of anger. Do you ever need that? Like a little bit of like piss offedness?
Yeah, I actually say that all the time. Like sometimes it takes you getting mad or seeing what it's going to look like if you don't change things to finally be like, this is the moment I got to change or else I'm stuck here.
Yeah. And I didn't, I think that was one of the big shifts was like, even after the first time, I still kind of went back to who I was, right? I still, while I got through the flood and boy, howdy, everyone pulled together and I rebuilt the house, I went right back to the house. I went back to the old job. And so 2 years in a row, I got laid off and the house flooded. I got laid off and the house flooded. I'm like, okay, I got it. Don't work there and don't live there, But I think that was a deeper shift, really, is that identity shift. It's not just me, the same person who went through tough times. It's still me, the same person, but with like a backstory. Right. It's actually like me as a different person going through it the second time.
Like you mentioned, the foundation got messed up of the house and everything. And it's almost like your own foundation also needed to get a little cracked. And maybe the first one didn't teach you that lesson as much as the second time. And once that foundation really cracked that second time, you were like, oh, well, okay, it's time to change completely.
Yeah. And I think that's an important distinction, because there are times to rebuild.
Yep.
And to, right, like I liked what I had. Maybe it's a relationship. You're like, this is a good relationship. I want to rebuild. I want to grow it. This is a good career. It's a layoff, but I'm going to get back on the horse. And I think that there's other times, and it's much harder to be like, actually, this is bigger, right? This isn't just going back to my old comfortable self. This is actually a pivotal moment to do different, to choose different, to be different. And I really felt that in the second flood.
Absolutely. I actually connect this a lot to motherhood content when I was in the motherhood
Mm.
space, was that motherhood can break you, right? And let's just apply this to
Mm.
life here. But life can break you, but the beauty of that is that all out of all those tiny pieces, you can choose which ones go back into your puzzle. You might have a different frame now and you might need different puzzle pieces, but you can choose the puzzle pieces that still fit. And then now you're going to be able to see those puzzle pieces that are like, you're no longer a piece of my puzzle, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that analogy. I do. I sometimes too think about, right, like there's this fear of like, if I pull a thread,
Yeah.
the whole sweater is going to unravel, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if I really just do the things that I want to do with my life? What if I really embrace who I am instead of trying to fix myself or be different? What if I really just went toward the most me version of me, right? I pulled that thread and the whole sweater, like my whole life could unravel,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I was talking to a friend of mine about this idea and she's in her late 60s and she was like, pull the thread, unravel the sweater, do it. I'm like,
Yes.
when someone like 20 years ahead of you says like, do it, like
Yeah.
put the puzzle back together your own way, pull the thread, rebuild your own way. Like I take that with a big grain of, I take that with a big dose of wisdom when it's someone who's been there, who's ahead of me. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Speaking of that fear, I feel like a good point to touch on is that when you are rebuilding, we're not talking about the
Mhm.
Instagram version of rebuilding.
Mm.
So, can you take us into the reality of rebuilding?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one of the most poignant lessons for me in the rebuild is who comes along with you and who doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's natural, but right, I have a tendency, like something terrible happened to me. Obviously, my family, this friend, this person, they're good. Naturally, they're going to want to step up and help me or
Right.
care for me. And then, when those people don't, and then maybe a random stranger does, right? Maybe someone on the internet or maybe kind of an acquaintance friend steps up. And so I think rebuilding for me, one of the hardest things was really those kind of like relationships and my own expectations for people and the reality of what people can offer you.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're in a rebuilding period of your life, don't take it personally if people that you think should support you can't.
Right.
And sometimes like, I'll just say, right, my parents have not been super supportive throughout all of this. That, they helped a little bit in the beginning and that they've helped in certain points, but they're not the ones who call me every week and say, hey,
Right.
how's it going? How are you doing? Do you need anything this week? Like they're just not those people. And, some of that is not taking it personally, right? It's not that I'm not good enough or that my story isn't, or they don't love me enough, but they just don't
Right.
have the capacity, right? Like they might not really be able to do that. They can't offer that. They just don't have it.
Right.
And so I think rebuilding, one of the hardest parts there is the relationships of like, who do I, who's going to help? How do I take it? Who do I lean on? And I'm not always great asking for help. I don't know. Are you good asking for help, Kayla?
I know. I feel that so hard because I was actually going to say that is I feel like in those relationships, it's also the relationship with yourself and then questioning how you are to others, because asking for help, which is where I was going to go with that, is it's
Yeah.
very hard, but also we have to realize that if we're not voicing what we need help with and we just have this internal expectation like, oh, my husband's supposed to help me with X, Y, and Z. Have you ever voiced it? And I get the opposite side of that argument. It's like, well, they should know. But that's also putting a responsibility on them to basically be a mind reader.
Yeah.
I can't do that for you. You can't do that for me. So we need to voice our stuff as well. And as hard as that can be, because I don't like to ask for help either. I don't.
Yeah.
But we have to,
Yeah.
because then we're expecting people to do something out of their ability.
Yeah, for sure. And there is that balance of, yes, people, right? Yes, people who care about you, right, should show it or should act in it, but we don't always know what to help. And I think too, one thing that I see with the flood, like especially like the first time it was like, oh, it got through, but the second time, like when it's the real deal, and sometimes this happens, I think I see with friends who have like a loss, right? Like maybe a friend has a young husband who passes away, or maybe like an older parent they were very close to. And I think some of us get so shocked, myself included, although I've tried to work through it, is like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I don't say anything.
Yes. Yep.
I don't know how to help. It's so awful. And I feel kind of guilty that you lost every single thing you own. And so I'm
Right.
just going to kind of avoid it. And that can really sting. And
Yeah.
so that's where I think, if we're able to open up or share what we need, it does make it easier for you and for them. And then if they can't give it, at least right? At least
Right.
that, they tried or they can't. And then there isn't that resentment, because then an expectation of someone is just really a resentment that's waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. Yeah. So I think the relationships were one of the hardest parts of the rebuild, but then also the joy of some people who were in my life, kind of in an acquaintance or right somewhere in my social network, the number
Yeah.
of people who just stepped up or offered things or who checked in on me. I mean, that just can be very touching when you're going through it. The number of people, and even sometimes like the random strangers who just
Yeah.
share that kindness, it can mean so much.
So, where did practice your positive come from out of all of this? Because that sounds like this was your whole new chapter.
Yeah, so that was born after the first flood, and I still kind of low key hate that I have to qualify which flood it was.
Right.
But I've been a lifelong like practice girly. The things that I love to do the most are
Yeah.
swing dancing. I've been swing dancing since I was 17. You do the
Okay.
same step over and over. You do the same turns over and over. I love boxing. I used to be a competitive boxer. Again, you throw the same punches again and again. It's all foundational. And I love yoga, right? You do the
Yeah.
same poses, right? I've done thousands of sun salutations, but each time you're doing it, you're specifically in that moment, doing it intentionally.
Right.
And so when I got through the first flood, I really thought like, well, what actually allowed me to get through this? And I'll share a quick story. The night of the day of the first flood, I stayed there. I didn't evacuate. My dog and I were there. And, later when the waters receded, a family member came and got me, and I got reunited with my daughter, and we had an evening, and we were just together, and we were getting ready to, she was getting ready to brush her teeth, and she was only 6 at the time. And she's like, "Hey mom, can I have your camera?" And I'm like, "What do you need my camera for, Claire?" Like, she never asked.
Yeah.
And she said, "Today was such a special day. I want to remember it."
Oh.
And like that morning, I had been on the counters in the house flooding, which all she saw in the moment was us, right? Me being able to be present and have a good evening with her and being thankful and grateful we were okay. And I was like, wow, that's really like powerful stuff, that
Yeah.
even on what could have been like the worst day of our lives, she wanted to remember it. It was a good memory. And so I thought, well, how did I get here? How was I able to, like get through this first flood? And it was really that I had practiced. I had practiced taking care of myself. I had practiced, staying present, right? Not drinking or scrolling, right? Staying open to other people, like I had really got these reps in that served me, and they became like a new muscle memory for me.
Yeah.
And I think for so much of what we do, we think of like positivity as mindset, and sure it is, but I really strongly believe in an action bias. We have to do the things,
Yeah.
right? We have to talk to people. We have to, move our bodies. We have to do the action. And so that was really the practice your positive, this idea of, the only way to get better at something is to practice. And you practice it until it becomes muscle memory. And that was really the idea behind practice your positive. And it's still a framework that, that I still use and I very much believe in.
How do you help others practice their positive? Like, can you give us some examples of things they can do every day, especially in a world of like toxic positivity that we see online?
Sure.
How do we just, make that distinction?
Yeah. So I'll give you a big picture, and then I'll give you a tool. So
Okay.
big picture, I think with positivity, we all kind of like know what we should do, right? We know we should put the phone down before bed. We know we're supposed to drink water, right? The gap is not in knowledge. It's not that we don't know what to do, perhaps. It's that we just don't do it.
Right.
So leaning heavily on all the practice you're positive, and then the community is team positive. All of it is this kind of like skewed towards sports and fitness and game analogy, because I think we get that, right? You know that you have to practice to get better. You know that you're not going to get stronger thinking about push-ups. You're going to get stronger doing push-ups.
Right.
And so with team positive and practice your positive, it's this idea of like, how can we make it fun and gamified and team sport oriented so that it feels like something you want to do and you're
Right.
excited to do and you get like a little dopamine hit for doing the thing.
Right.
Yeah, right? Do you think that? What do you think about that?
I love gamifying things. I do it with my kids. I do it with
Yeah.
myself. I'll be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, like checking off a little point in the
Yeah,
game. So I love that.
totally, right? Even things like, I think like how fast can I put the dishes out of the dishwasher, right?
Yep.
Like, whatever, right? Like little things. So they're great with kids too. I talk a lot about parenting your positive, right? This idea that especially some of us, we weren't raised maybe with positivity. How can we model that and instill it in our kiddos,
Yeah.
even if it's kind of, a new language to us? So, practice your positive, team positive, right? I run community events. I do some corporate and business workshops. In the works right now is writing my book, which will be a playbook on positivity. And I have a podcast. It's only 8 minutes. I don't do long form interviews, but it's 8 minutes twice a week, 8 to 10 minutes. And it's always a move, right? A positive of the day. This is what we're practicing. This is what you can step away and try today. And for all of it, right? I like to think of it too as like an experiment. Like, don't take my word for it. Like, do it, right? Do the thing.
I love that.
And see if you feel better, right? Like, don't believe me. Honestly, don't. I wish you wouldn't, right? But try these things, right? So I have a calendar of like 30 days, right? Try 30 days of little positivity practices and tell me how you feel.
Right. I love the playbook. I love the playbook wording because that fits right into everything that you're talking about. So that is super smart. And I'm all about the small, digestible, action-oriented things. So I love that you do kind of like smaller episodes with that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, for personal development, it's always so heavy and it's deep. And like, yes, it is. Yes, yes, meditate for an hour. Yes, wake up at 5 a.m. and do ice baths. Okay. But also I need something that I can do like right now, today, while I'm in the car pickup line or, like right while I'm packing lunches and I'm pulling laundry out of the dryer. Like, how can I do those? How can I do something right now?
Yeah. We are very aligned with that because I have my short shift starters that used to come out. I stopped doing them so much when we got into the month of motherhood because that kind of took over everything. However, we had those daily shift starters. They were like 2 to 4 minutes of just like, hey, I'm going to offer you a shift in perspective and then here's what you could do with it. And I love that you said like, don't take my word for it. Experiment with it because I say things along those lines all the time of like, I can't give you what you need. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can read all the books. You can do all the journaling. But until you actually take the action, and in your case, practice, then what's going to change?
Yeah. And, I think that's harder, right? We're at a point now with everyone's a speaker. Everyone has a course. Everyone has a podcast. And not to hate on us because I know we both do those things too. So, hey, listen to the podcast, right? I don't want to hate on that. And also it sets us up to really be in a kind of a consumer orientation, to just always be taking things in and not taking the action, doing the thing, right? I can scroll and I can heart 100 memes on positivity and friendship and, open-mindedness. But then if I get in line at the grocery store and I'm like, you were ahead of me in line, or it's 10 miles, what does it really matter, right? Or if someone cuts me in traffic and then like, I'm like, what was you can't really say you're a positive person if you walk around, you know what I mean, not expressing that.
Yeah, we have that. We have it right at our fingertips on our phones. It's like, in 1 hour of scrolling, you can see 10 million different perspectives. And so that's why it really is up to you to just practice and see which one sticks. And even with our daily habits, like you said, we know that we need to drink water. Well, I knew the same thing and nothing's working for me except for adding lemon to it, because then I was like, oh, I love this. It's not plain. Well, now I can drink water way more than I would have. So yeah, you got to find what works for you. So I would love to know that if you had to boil it down, like you just wanted somebody who's listening to hear one thing from this. They might be stuck in their own messy shift or they're trying to make some life changes. What would you say to them that they need to take away from this today?
Yeah. Can I give you a tool?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna give you, and then I'm gonna give everyone a tool. All right, it'll take me like 30 seconds. So my new thing, because it's action oriented, is you have positivity in your hand. So let's think about our hand, right? And let's assign one idea to each finger. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're stuck, whether it's big stuff like your house flooded or it's little stuff like you're cranky, at the end of the day or something at work. Look at your hand. Your thumb is grounding. It starts with me, right? Grounding, feet on the earth, in out of my head, into my life, right? Into my body. It starts with me grounding, right? I am here in this moment, good, bad, or ugly. I choose to be present. And then our pointer finger, what do we think about that with, right? We point our focus. Where am I focused? Am I focused on despair, obstacles, failure, why I can't do things? It's his fault. Am I focused on the future, opportunities, hope, growth, right? So where's my focus? The middle finger, it means just what you think it means, right?
Yep.
It's that little spicy defiance, right? Let it go. What can I let go of? What can I get? How can I get like a little bit pissed off maybe if I need to, right? That defiance, right. Like, no, this is not going to take me. You are not going to, I'm not going down like this. Ring finger, commitment to connection, right? We think about the ring finger, we think about love and commitment. And so we need other people. And so who can I reach out to? Who can I talk to? Who can I share my truth with? Ring finger. And then pinky. 50% of your grip strength is actually in your little pinky. And so the pinky is the idea of little actions matter. What little action, what teeny tiny thing can I do? Can I stand up from my desk and put the phone down? Right? What teeny tiny things. And so I would love to share that with you. It's been super popular and, it helps people out that if you're stuck, you just look at your finger, just go through. Am I grounded? Where's my focus? What do I need to let go of? Who can I talk to? And what's the tiny little thing I can do next to get myself closer to a more positive state?
I love that. It's actionable. Every single person can do that right here, right now. So thank you for sharing that tool.
Literally the hand guide to positivity. Literally the hand guide.
Literally. Yes. There we go. Where can everybody connect with you outside of this podcast episode?
Yeah, so I live mostly on LinkedIn. So Sass Schaeffer is my fun middle name. And then also on Instagram, also Sass Schaeffer are the two best places to catch me and catch up with me.
I love it. Well, thank you for sitting down with us today and sharing all of this. And the best part is actionable tool. We got to hear from you and take something away with us as well that literally everybody can do right here, right now. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Kayla.